He took me away from home after I turned 14, and since then I never returned home.
As a child, she was smuggled into the United States by a family-run sex trafficking ring. After years of abuse, rape, and violence, she finally escaped.
Well, now she lives in Utah and works to help trafficking survivors here in our state. What makes her story even more incredible is her bravery to not only escape, but then to face her traffickers in court, helping other victims in the process.
She hasn't been able to share her story as the investigation drew on and dragged on for years. But now in a 2 News exclusive, she is sitting down with our Kelly Vaughn to explain what she went through and her work to help women like her here in Utah.
25-year-old Faith Robles will never forget what she said to her traffickers at their sentencing hearing.
I hope you go to hell because that's where you took me. I will never forgive you for what you did to me.
But this nightmare started as a love story.
He asked me to be his girlfriend. He was handsome and kind.
At 13, Faith is living in a tiny town in Mexico. She meets 16-year-old Francisco Melendez Perez. He tells her he loves her and takes her to live with his family.
He promised me and said to me, we're going to the U.S., we are going to work together, we're going to build a house, and we will have children.
Faith didn't know that the man she thought loved her was actually part of a family-run human trafficking ring.
They bring girls from Mexico to the U.S. They took me to New York.
Once there, Francisco says he found her a job.
He told me that I was going to sleep with men, which I didn't understand. I'm still 14, a child.
Francisco and his relatives threaten her and her family.
He keeps telling me, oh, if you go to the police, they're going to arrest you, they're going to deport you.
She was trapped and isolated, beaten and raped by dozens of men each day. What happens next? How does it work?
Okay, so I'm glad that you're asking because most of the people think like trafficking just happens in one place, right? In my case, it's not.
Faith says she was treated like pizza delivery, trafficked across multiple states. As a new girl, she was in high demand.
They call you fresh meat. Carne fresca.
Faith did try to escape, but she was severely beaten. Then, finally, at 17 years old, 3.5 years after she was smuggled into New York, Faith made it to a police station.
Now I'm free, but the trauma, it's still there.
After many twists and turns, Faith ended up moving in with the Stockwells, a family in Utah. They helped Faith through one of her biggest challenges yet, going back to New York to face her traffickers in court.
She could have said, no, it's too hard. I don't want to take this on.
But Faith was determined to get justice.
Because of my testimony, the law enforcement were able to help other victims.
The leaders of the trafficking ring were sentenced to nearly 40 years in prison. Francisco, now 27, was sentenced to 25 years. Now that they're behind bars, Faith feels she has to speak out as trafficking happens everywhere.
It happens here in Utah.
Faith and the Stockwells started Dahlia's Hope, a place for trafficking survivors to get complete care.
You know, we've only been open for 2 years and we've already passed the 40 survivor mark, which is more than we ever thought.
We can prevent this and we can change lives.
During Faith's trial, the judge estimated that she earned that trafficking ring around $1.2 million. And that's money she, of course, never saw. And she was just one of the girls the family was trafficking. This illustrates why human trafficking is one of the fastest growing crimes in the world. There is so much money to be made, and the penalties can seem relatively low when many don't face those actual human trafficking charges, unless, of course, survivors like Faith continue to demand justice. Reporting for KUTV 2 News, I'm Kelly Vaughn.
What a brave young woman. There is so much more to Faith's story. To learn more about what she went through, the case against the trafficking ring, or the work to help survivors right here in Utah, head to our website, KUTV.com.